You are now listening to Extreme Cinema with Andrew Legank and David Lawler. If you like sex and violence, evil brunettes, and angelic blondes, then stick with us as we debate some of the best and worst of action and exploitation filmmaking.
So it's, now bear in mind, I wrote these notes a long time ago, but I start off writing by saying it's been a busy week, and the last couple of recording sessions I've produced for these podcasts, I've wanted to talk in calmish tone, so I've gotten to the practice of asking people what they're drinking. Tonight I'm having a coffee. Andrew, what's your beverage of choice this night?
I am drinking water with lemon and a touch of sea salt.
That's disgusting.
You are a party animal, aren't you?
Yeah, man. Never a dull moment around here.
Brother, you are going down.
Later, you're going to need some kaopectate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe some Metamucil.
Metamucil.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
Little milk of magnesia.
Yeah.
So tonight we're discussing the work of filmmaker Eric Red, otherwise known as Eric the Red, writer of The Hitcher, co-writer with Kathryn Bigelow of Blue Steel and Near Dark, director of the movies Cohen and Tate and Body Parts.
What would you little maniacs like to do first?
You, I think you were the first one. You were the one to actually chime in when we were trying to come up with a list of filmmakers who we could cover on the show. You brought up Eric the Red right away.
I did.
Eric Red.
The Red.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Now I'm gonna be saying Eric the Red now from now on. You brought up Eric the Red.
Eric Red is somebody that always kind of interested me. I always liked him. You know, he was a writer in the '80s, and then and he sort of scraped together Cohen and Tate and which I always found to be, I don't want to, spoiler alert, I always found it to be a really
don't spoil it.
terrific, little independent movie.
It was the first one I watched, and the first one we're going to cover, I guess, because I figured we'd launch in with Cohen and Tate, then get into his smaller movies, Blue Steel and The Hitcher,
right,
and then finish it up with Body Parts.
All right.
What do we got?
We thank you, Father, for what we are about to receive.
Cohen, he kills people for money.
Please.
Tate would happily do it for fun. They've been teamed up to get Travis Knight away from his family and the FBI and deliver him alive to the mob.
It's done. Yeah, done. Almost.
Travis Knight. He's 9 years old and he's gonna give them hell. Cohen and Tate. A two-man army ready for anything.
It's working, Mr. Cohen.
Except a 9-year-old hell-bent on survival.
Hey, Tate.
You're dead.
That's it.
Get him.
His only hope, to turn them against each other.
Kill him, Mr. Cohen.
Take it easy, Mr. Cohen. Things are getting a little out of hand, don't you think?
A terrifying race against time with death in pursuit. Cohen and Tate.
And this is what was interesting, and I believe we talked about it before, was that it's easier to find Cohen and Tate out there online.
Isn't that amazing? Because like when I first heard of Cohen and Tate, I was like that kid who hung out at the video store and nobody wanted him there. Like you know, that was me when I was like 13, 12 years old, whatever.
What is this creepy kid doing?
Yeah,
in this
and this
video
dude
store?
he's like, and he, one of these guys, I was talking to him about movies and stuff. So we started talking, and he's like, "Yo, you got to hear about this movie." He's like, "This movie is like the lowest grossing movie ever." And I'm like, he was like telling me this like it was true. It wasn't. I mean, this movie made,
I can tell you right now,
$11,000 or something, or like $40 or something in one theater in Texas, and nobody even went to that. And I'm like,
it was like one man with a weird hat who came in and watched it.
Like one guy with a yellow hat, and this did not endear me to it, make me want to see it. I looked at it, I was like, what is this Cohen and Tate? What is this? Scheider. Scheider. Bastardo. And like I'm not watching that, and it's a few years later that the name of it, I guess, stuck in my mind, and I sat down and watched it, especially when I learned who Eric Red was. Right. And that's what really brought me to it. But it was interesting to have that introduction. Like, this is the lowest grossing shitty movie ever.
Well, I hate that when you can't really equate a film's like success as a storytelling vehicle with how much money it makes, because there's plenty of great movies out there that don't make a dime, and there are plenty of shitty movies out there that make too much money.
Yeah.
And give these bastards too much incentive to just continue on doing what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
What does David mean?
David means business, baby.
This I got from YouTube, actually. Yeah. Oh, that's fucked up. He's a Facebook friend. That's racist. I got this from YouTube. It's a VHS dub, Nelson Entertainment. It even has the FBI warning. You remember those, right? Big ass FBI warning. You're going to jail, motherfucker!
There's a couple of different versions that differ a little bit, especially in the opening crawl. The VHS had like a slower crawl of the story at the beginning, and at the end it's like, I believe it said, if I recall correctly, because I haven't seen the VHS in a very long time, it was like they want to talk they want to talk to Travis. They want to talk to him right now. And then they go, and then it goes, it waits a minute, and then it goes, Travis Knight is 11 years old. And then, but in the Blu-ray, they cut that down and they make it go really fast. And I think it's a huge mistake.
A nice greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray.
It doesn't have the same impact. And they also changed some of the wording a little bit.
Well, that's unusual. So the Blu-ray, how does that look?
It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
So what I was just looking at a murky VHS dub, but
I don't know why.
But we have like Adam Baldwin and Roy Scheider in Cohen and Tate, music by Bill Conti, and it's an unusual score because it reminds me like old time horror. It reminds me a little bit of the Dead Heat sound.
Yeah, well, he's got a kind of a schizophrenic score. It's like sometimes it's really happy. It's it's like a Bill Conti score from the 80s, that like we're familiar with, and then he gets into this. Like this serious horror movie soundtrack that also it's really kind of it's larger than the movie. It makes the movie.
It is actually. It kind of like it feels like it belongs tacked on to like a bigger,
maybe like a Dario Argento movie or something. Like is kind of what it
maybe. Yeah, it's Bill Conti, isn't he the guy who used to do the scoring with the Academy?
Well, he did Rocky. Oscars, right? Yeah, I mean he's a big composer.
Well, first I wanted to ask you if you remember the movie My Bodyguard with Adam Baldwin.
I have never seen My Bodyguard, but I know of it.
It's I did a write-up of it recently for Vintage Cable Box. That was like the movie that was his first
the movie
movie.
that made Adam Baldwin.
Yeah, pretty much. Chris Makepeace plays this kid who's being bullied by Matt Dillon. He goes to big, scary Adam Baldwin, he's just always scary and everything. But and I guess pays him to protect him or something like that. So this is unusual because in this movie we pick up mid-story, and then we have this kid witness. I guess in the crawl he says he witnesses the murder of a mobster and he's under protective custody. So he's in this strange house. Now, you mentioned before this is the kid from The Believers, right?
Yes, kid from The Believers, and just the other day,
Harley Cross.
Harley
right?
Cross, but just the other day, I think that this kid is immensely talented. He's left acting, and I think he's like works at .com. He's a .com CEO or something now. But he did this movie. I picked it up like 2 days ago. Like just reading online, and I didn't realize. Like somebody said, "Oh, this Harley Cross kid is amazing in this movie." I'm like, "Really? I didn't even know that he did this movie." It's called "The Boy Who Cried Bitch."
The Boy Who Cried Bitch. That's unusual,
dude. If you want to see fucking acting from a kid, man, I swear to God, it's like Academy Award style. Like it is fucking incredible. This kid.
All right, I'm looking it up right now.
The best you can do. I have a copy. The best you can do is a piece of shit watched out video of VHS rip. That's the best you can get. But
this is unusual. It's got what? Jason Biggs from American Pie.
Yeah, it's got
and Adrian
Brody when he was still. I went to high school with Adrian Brody, and this movie was '91,
and Maura
so
Kelly.
he was probably still in high school. Maura Kelly, yeah, and it's I wouldn't say greatest movie ever.
Oh, they shot it in Bronxville. I know Bronxville.
My God, the performance from Harley Cross, absolutely amazing.
He's a fine actor in this movie too, because he is able to keep our interest. He's our narrative through line.
Yes.
For lack of a better word, and he's like a 9-year-old kid or something. He's an 11-year-old kid, and he manages to hold his own with Roy Scheider and Adam Baldwin, which is remarkable. Really, He's not your typical child actor.
No, not at all. And
he's very intense, and he doesn't mind getting down and dirty about it.
Really doesn't. He's amazing. It's a shame that we didn't see more of him and see him grow up grow into being a grown-up actor. I
guess he just maybe he was smart. Maybe he was just smart.
Yeah,
he knew he was only going to have a certain shelf life, and maybe he grew up. A lot of kids grow up and they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Look at how pathetic a lot of them got to be, like the Coreys, and Macaulay Culkin and Haley Joel Osment. They just turned into overblown, versions of themselves, and they all wound up having a lot of problems.
Yeah, they did.
This kid wants to know when he can get back to his normal life, but his dad tells him that's never going to happen. And then there's this shifty agent or something named George who has sweat on his upper lip. He's nervous. I feel like something's about to go down. The way this movie begins, it's very tense already. This is one of these characteristics of Eric Red. Finally got his name right. Where he's all about suspense.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
Mm-hmm. You don't have a football, do you?
No, my friend does.
Maybe we'll get you one for Christmas.
All right. And I could learn how to play football.
Got some place to go, George?
Oh, no, Mr. Knight. Why would you say that?
Saw you looking at your watch.
It's not running right, that's all.
Well, mom is in the kitchen. This house is so strange because it looks much bigger on the inside. It's like a tiny little house in the front. It's like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. But the phone's not working. The line's been cut. This is bad news. Something terrible is about to happen, and everybody's nervous.
But they sit down to dinner and like, man,
yeah,
great scene, like really, really.
And then Bill Conti goes nuts on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote in my notes. They have like this spoken prayer at the dinner table, or Lord, something about we're about to receive, blah blah blah. The family dog takes off, and the kid gives chase, and Roy Scheider and Adam Baldwin enter, and they kill the kid's freaking family right there.
Yeah, right in front of them. Boom.
And this is weird because. For some reason, okay, if you don't know anything about Cohen and Tate and you look at the cover box, you think that Roy Scheider and Adam Baldwin, maybe they're good guys.
Right.
I always ascribed Scheider and Baldwin the good guy parts. They're not here. I mean, Scheider just kills these people and then makes a phone call and says, it's done. You know, and then, so the kid comes back to the house and he's immediately apprehended by Scheider. And this is like, for me, it's an impressive setup because we don't know what the hell's going on. It's riveting and it's fast-paced, and we're getting an indication of an escalating plot. Baldwin and Scheider, they get into the car with the kid. They start bitching immediately. Scheider doesn't like Baldwin. He prefers to work alone. And the kid is listening to their exposition in the backseat of the car. What I want to know right away is, why are they taking this kid instead of killing him on the spot?
Because the guys want to talk to him. I don't know why.
They bicker like an old married couple.
Do.
They turn on the radio, they listen to the news report about their activities, and they find out that one of their targets didn't die, presumably the kid's dad, right?
Yeah.
And they start freaking out. And, you know, remember when I was talking about how difficult it is to kill somebody a couple of episodes back? This is case in point right here.
Right.
You should make sure your targets have been erased, then leave.
Yeah. Damn it.
But I don't know, do you get the indication that this is Scheider's last job? Like, that's it. One more job, and I'm done. Because he seems to have other things on his mind.
Well, I think he's worried. Like he you see, because well, I mean, he speaks about it. He's worried that all these years he's worked alone. Now they want him to bring this fucking guy. Like, so he thinks that at the end of this job, he's going to get one in the back of the head from this guy. So that's because that's how you retire in his business, is somebody, you know, puts a bullet in your head. So that's kind of what he's expecting, and he doesn't. So that has him nervous already.
And Baldwin is not terribly bright.
No,
Scheider is obviously the brains of the dude, and
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
He's very resourceful in that regard.
Yeah.
So
experienced
they they pull over. Baldwin suggests killing the kid again. Why don't we just kill him?
Yeah.
He's like, shut up. I don't want to talk. I'm driving. And then the kid reaches for a flashlight under the seat. He socks Roy Scheider in the head, and the car swerves. The kid gets out of the car, tries to flag down help. This reminds me of Hitchcock.
Right.
This whole bit on the highway is very Hitchcockian. The kid escapes, makes it to a truck stop. And this is a nightmare. I mean, I can't even imagine being in this kitchen. I'm really, again, with Eric the Red, thematically, I'm always invested in everything that's going on.
Right.
I mean, this is like a popcorn movie, and you just don't want to get up from your seat.
It really, and it's exciting, and you care about the characters, and it's. I
even kind of care about the hitman, and I don't know why.
You do. And I really, another thing I've always appreciated about this movie is the overwhelming portion of almost all of it takes place in just this car. So
in a car.
It's two guys.
Another one of Eric Red's strengths.
Yeah, which
he's
is
always
Eric Red's movies always come alive in the car.
Yeah, they pretty much do.
Yeah.
So he's rescued by this cop. He tells the cop a story. Unfortunately, Baldwin and Scheider are close behind. Kid spots their car, and the cop pulls them over. But instead, there's a terrified old lady, so it's the same kind of car. Right. But then they do catch up to the cop car. Scheider shoots the cop right in the head.
Let's just get back to the station.
Dana, they're in that car.
Come on, son. We're almost there.
Kill me! Oh, God! Get out of here!
Yeah! Hang on. I'm just going left again.
Don't worry.
Okay, go to your left.
Oh, God!
I'm gonna bump him down now. Hold on.
Slow it down. He's coming left again. let's bring him over. Yeah!
Get his ass.
So the kid is trying to drive the car with the dead cop in the driver's seat, but they capture the kid, they handcuff him, they put him back in the car. It's like this constant cat and mouse thing. And again, Baldwin wants to kill him, but Scheider is a purist. He wants to bring back the quarry in one piece. So the kid starts antagonizing Baldwin. They cross the border back to Texas. So then these little idiosyncrasies start to appear in Hitman. They play this good cop, bad cop with the kid. Their interplay reminds me a lot of like Jules and Vincent from Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Although they're not as friendly.
Right.
You know.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I want to slap you, son of a bitch. Hey.
Just fucking great, man. No, we don't fucking map. We don't know where the fuck we're going. God damn it.
It's easy. Don't panic completely.
Don't say that. Panic? I ain't panicking. Calm down. Don't ever fucking say that. Don't ever fucking say that I'm fucking panicking, man. I never fucking say I'm fucking panicking, man. I don't panic. Don't ever fucking say I'm fucking panicking, man.
But these two don't seem to care about one another at all. Scheider keeps warning Baldwin about the unsafe placement of his shotgun in the car. They wind up at a roadblock, and I can't believe the roadblock is a little unbelievable for me.
But it's so cool.
The state troopers actually give up their guns.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, especially with what we've seen for so many years about excessive force, I think in reality that car would be riddled with bullet holes. Everybody would be dead. And
God, I mean, they probably would have shot up all the cars just to make sure that there weren't any, accomplices in the following.
I think he's a terrorist. Wait a minute, he said something racist to me. Get him!
No, wait, that guy in the car behind him looks like him. Shoot him too.
Yeah. But it's also unusual because I feel like I'm almost rooting for Baldwin and Scheider to get out of this situation.
Yeah, you kind of are. I mean, and it's tense. Like the whole thing when they take that cop and walk him through, I mean, that's fucking cool, man.
He makes them relinquish their guns and their keys, makes them handcuff each other, and then Baldwin shoots their cars and the cars blow up.
Yeah, and then he does that.
So why did he make them give up their keys if they were just going to blow up their cars anyway?
I don't know.
Because it looked cool because they had the dynamite in the budget?
Probably. or maybe they were going to try and, get away without blowing up the cars and doing that little crane shot that he does.
But this is also Eric Red's style. Is he seems to write as though it's just one nightmare situation leading into another nightmare situation, and it doesn't end until he tells you it's over.
Right.
It's almost like an endurance test, especially with the Hitcher, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Right.
But back here, they decide that they ditch the car, they get another one, and at this point, wouldn't there be a massive statewide manhunt that would involve all departments of law enforcement?
Yes.
I mean, I realize it's a low budget movie. The kid loses their map.
The kid eats the map.
And he eats it. And Baldwin freaks out in classic mode.
See, man, why didn't they just use GPS? The fuck they need a map for? My God. Fucking low budget movies.
Yeah.
They can't even afford a phone with GPS.
Yes, if the movie were made today, they would have been caught in like 30 seconds. So, that's, technology is great, but it doesn't make for great suspense.
No, it doesn't. It's been one of the reasons. I am actually convinced that that's one of the reasons why movies suck now.
Well, yeah, we went to see Kong Skull Island a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it takes place in, I'm a King Kong fan, so I wanted to see it.
I know, we did King Kong.
What they did was, instead of making it contemporary, which would have made more sense because they had a multicultural, multi-ethnic cast, was they set the action in 1973. And I think one of the reasons they set it in 1973 was so that they wouldn't have to deal with cell phones and GPS and everybody saying, well, why don't you just use your cell phone and get out of there or something like that. But unfortunately, because this is 2017, the cast has to be made up of 2 women, 1 Asian, and another one a hottie, a black scientist, Samuel L. Jackson, John Goodman, all these people, and then, some Hispanic dudes and stuff like that. It's like this Benetton ad, basically, in a King Kong movie. And it makes no sense because in 1973, you did not see anything like that going on. But
you did.
That was one of my big issues with it. Baldwin seems more scared of Scheider than Scheider would be scared of him. Baldwin has an itchy trigger finger while Scheider is stone cold. What's more, the kid is trying to play them. So, okay, now this is a very interesting scene, and there's no explanation for it. There's nothing that leads up to it. But Scheider stops at a mailbox. He takes out a bunch of $100 bills and puts them in a stamped envelope with an address. He seals the envelope and mails this money. And I hope it was in one of those security envelopes because they don't like you mailing cash.
Right.
But we're getting some backstory here. Scheider, what is this? Is he's sending money according to the because they never explain it in the Wikipedia or whatever the entry I was looking at. He was sending money. He was sending it to his wife.
I know that, and I didn't read the Wikipedia entry. There must have been something that they did in the movie.
I figured the look on his face, yeah, it was something personal.
Because that's him knowing that he's not making it back from this.
He's not going to make it back. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Does he loves someone, and this is important. Ordinarily we wouldn't invest so much in this because he's a bad guy.
Right.
We want to see him killed at the end or something like that. But you're kind of giving us a conscience by creating a character who's bad. I mean, he shot a woman. Yeah. I mean, this is like unusual because this is like one of those flinch things for me.
Right.
If you see a guy like this killing a woman, he shoots a woman or something, kills her, the gloves are off. That's it. He's beyond redemption. He probably knows he's beyond redemption, and that's why he did this.
Well, in the context of the movie as a whole, he is kind of the good guy. He's the one who's there to keep the lunatic that had killed a kid just for fun, from
he's
killing
keeping
him.
order.
So he serves a purpose in the movie of being the good guy, even though he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
So it
and it's that's and when you get to the conclusion, we're not quite there yet, but when we get to the conclusion, that's another kind of breakthrough moment as far as a character is concerned.
Yeah, I love this movie. It's like it's got
so unusual
it.
Because it feels like if you see it at the video store, or like maybe what you were saying, the story you were relating earlier, you see it at the video store, it looks on the outside to be like a cheap piece of shit direct-to-video
It sure does.
thriller.
Yeah. It sure does.
It just looks like, but there's so much character nuance in here, and
and they did a lot with a very little bit of money, and they made this.
You know what? That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Don't take the little bit of money you have and try to do big, because you're going to fail. Take what you have and make a movie around that. We have a car. We have 3 leads.
Right.
And let's just make it about that. That's smart filmmaking.
It is, yeah. And this is a perfect example.
And hopefully you get the right people, because a lot of times they do that, but they don't get the right people, and it's not very well put together. It's not very well acted or something like that. But everyone is great in this movie.
Really are, yeah.
So Scheider finally shoots Baldwin, and Baldwin flies out of the car, and Scheider puts Baldwin's body in the trunk of the car. And the kid threatens to rat out Scheider to his bosses about killing Baldwin. They pull up at a gas station.
He's totally Scheider's on his side, and then so he gets rid of or for the moment gets rid of Tate, and then and then all of a sudden the kid starts in boom 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 on Scheider. He's like look, now I'm coming after you, pal. Watch what I'm gonna do to you next.
It's So they go to the gas station. The attendant notices blood coming from the trunk. Scheider this guy has incredible aim too. He kills the attendant through the window of the station as the attendant picks up a telephone, a yellow telephone, if I remember correctly. So it's a great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million right there. So the movie is basically, it's made up of these suspenseful episodes. Scheider's car blows a tire in an oil field. There's a good progression. The stakes get higher and higher. Of course, dead people don't stay dead. Baldwin flies out of the trunk and attacks Scheider and goes after the kid. The kid starts the car and drives away. Scheider catches up to him and changes the tire, I guess. Kid slips out of his handcuffs and runs off. And now Baldwin and Scheider are enemies.
Right.
And they're playing cat and mouse with each other. Scheider has a hearing aid or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. He drops his hearing aid. He appeals to the boy to help him find it. So there are like these unusual motivations at play here. And I was just thinking about it in my notes I wrote. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this movie before. There are similar things.
Yeah.
But not this. Not this. This is different.
It's all politics and allegiances change, and like it's kind of based on who needs who at what given moment. And this kid is so savvy about playing that game. Like he's he's good. He's better than they are at it. And it's brilliant to watch. I mean, and Harley Cross is really good at it because it's just he's a really, really great little actor.
So then Baldwin shoots Scheider, and the kid gets him up to shoot Baldwin as he approaches to finish the job. And then Baldwin is then crushed by this drilling auger thing that's pounding into the ground.
Right.
And then they take off, but the dying Scheider is being pursued by cops. He breaks through a roadblock. They make it to Texas. Where are they? Houston or something?
Yeah, I think it is. It's like downtown Houston or something.
So he holds his gun to the kid even as they're surrounded by law enforcement.
I love his last line.
Yeah, he said what he says. How old
are you?
How old are you, kid?
9.
9, huh? How about that?
That's how it ends. I mean, it's unusual. He just drops dead right there. Law enforcement come in. I guess they save the kid. Everybody's happy and he
That's
something.
so in line with his character of his just the way he behaves, his code of honor that they don't even talk about, but you can see it play out in the movie. Like his character, it's totally in line for his character that he would let this kid live. And just admit that he got the best of him and shoot himself, it really fits with everything you've seen from that character, which is kind of
it's just so fascinating to me because you're when you're watching this, you're asking questions as you're why is he doing that? Why is he doing this? Why is he sending money to his wife or whatever?
Yeah.
Why does he say that before he kills her? It's unusual, and we know nothing about these people. We know nothing about them, and that's probably why we're asking.
Well, everything we know is all within the.
Nobody gets a backstory. All we know
in
is
the context
it's a hit
of the
job.
movie. Yeah.
But again, pleasantly surprised by this, and this was a movie we were talking about for years.
Yeah.
Never got around to say, unfortunately, kind of before it appeared on Blu-ray, it disappeared. You couldn't really find it except in old VHS copies.
Right.
Well, great movie, and high recommendations from both of us. Go ahead and see it.
Check it out.
It's a nice one to just get lost in. Just get lost in the movie and just have some fun. So, we're discussing some of the select work of Eric Red. Not everything. Writer and filmmaker. Probably more famous for his scripts, really.
Yeah.
The Hitcher and Near Dark than his work as a director.
Yeah, he worked with Kathryn Bigelow on two Kathryn Bigelow movies on Near Dark and Blue Steel.
Right, and that's what we're going to talk about next is Blue Steel. A little bit. It's that of the 4 movies that I watched, I think that's probably the weakest for me.
Yeah, it is.
Because
it has some issues.
But I would like to say that I think I know, or I knew where you were going when you suggested Eric Red for the podcast. He has a style that is very similar to Larry Cohen.
Yeah, I guess he does. Yeah.
The writer filmmaker that we both have enormous respect for, Eric Red, is very similar. He's a very gifted writer because I think he writes with an eye towards shooting. He's thinking about making the movie as he's writing it.
Yeah, but he's not as subversive as Larry Cohen. Larry Cohen.
Well, yeah, but I can't fault him for that because he doesn't have enough work out there.
Well, yeah.
To really get into it, he only has like a handful of works. Larry Cohen is ridiculously prolific.
That's true.
So he's had so many years to kind of do this subversive stuff. And I do think Eric Red is subversive in his own way. He's, these movies, well, with the exception of Blue Steel, well, actually, Cohen and Tate and The Hitcher seem kind of similar. They kind of have a similar kind of terror about
terror
them.
on the road, right?
Yeah, terror on the road. Yeah.
Check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart motherfucker. That's right.
If it came down to it, if he had no financing or support, he would direct these movies himself.
Right.
You know? Except Blue Steel. Because Blue Steel comes out in 1989, directed by Kathryn Bigelow. And I remember the critics at the time hailing it as progressive.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we were talking about Tyne Daly and the Enforcer?
Yeah.
This affirmative action placing her character in danger, and she has to work to get the respect of Harry Callahan. This is a slightly different prospect with Jamie Lee Curtis, who, from a purely aesthetic sense, seems a lot tougher than Tyne Daly. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
That Jamie Lee Curtis seems tougher.
She does, but she still is very green and is really kind of dragged into. She's sort of forced along, not at her own pace in getting experience by, what happens to her with this.
Well, yeah, she's troubled, but she knows how to handle a gun.
In Blue Steel, for me, the weak point is the villain, and the villain's motivation doesn't make any sense. And
Ron Silver, right? Yeah.
And the idea, you want to talk progressive? I think that the idea that just because some guy finds a gun that he's going to become some killer is ridiculous.
That's the problem with the script. Yeah. I blame that on the script because the script is much more interested in Jamie Lee Curtis than it is with any killer or Ron Silver.
Now, and I understand, basically that was what was important. Jamie Lee Curtis was important. The killer's motivations weren't. But if you're going to show it,
care a little bit more about the bad guy.
Make it more believable than they did. That bothers.
Right. She plays like a uniformed cop. She just passed her certification. She's out on patrol. She stops at a convenience store. Tom Sizemore in an early role, with his crazy ass smile, holds up the joint.
Hurry the fuck up, man! Put your head down, you fucking bitch. I'm not ordering Chinese food, fuckface. Give me the money. That's right. The change in there. The change in there. Alright. No one even fucking breathe. Alright. One of the grave asshole where you fucked up. Give me the bag. Give me the bag. You wanna play games? Huh? You wanna play some fucking games? You didn't want to give me that fucking change.
Police! Don't move! Put the gun down!
Get out of my face, baby.
Put down the gun!
Oh, look, bitch, I didn't come here to fuck with you.
I said put the gun down now!
Oh, fuck you!
So Ron Silver happens to be in the supermarket. She shoots the guy. She shoots Sizemore, but she loses the gun. He loses his gun. Tom Sizemore drops his gun or something. Silver picks it up, and she gets in trouble because there's no gun. But this doesn't make any sense to me because there were more than a few witnesses in there who saw Tom.
Yeah, and even back then they had freaking security cameras and shit. Really?
Yeah.
And so this idea that everybody's like, well, he might have had a gun or it might have been a knife. Bullshit, dude. The guy's pointing a hand cannon in your fucking
gun.
face.
He had a gun.
Come on. And so that was weak.
That was very weak.
There were a number of these weak points in there that really could have used some, I don't know, rewriting or something.
It's a little bit. It's kind of. This is where I guess Eric Red comes in because he places one believable, unbelievable hypothesis on top of another one. Like he has Ron Silver start romancing her,
right?
And the thing with the gun confuses me, but
I will say it's beautifully shot. It's got some really good action.
It's it's very much shot like an action movie of the time, which was a lot of quick editing, good sound effects editing going on. It's Kathryn Bigelow is like an interesting female director because she she is directing an action movie. I mean, like, she directed Point Break, right?
Yeah, the original.
So now Ron Silver now has a gun, and he is also a kooky crazy pants.
Yeah.
So he starts killing people with the gun, and there's a great bit in here.
He's like a lunatic and weirdo, and like
I do like, but I tell you, I agree with you when you say there's no really no motivation for Ron Silver to do what he's doing. But there's a great bit in there where he enters his apartment, he puts the gun on the table, and then he just contemplates it.
Yeah, that's a.
He's like, what can I do with this?
Yeah,
but he has a nice apartment. What is he, like a stockbroker?
He's a commodities trader, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's handling money.
The thing is, they could have made this a lot more believable if they could have shown him talking with his psychiatrist or something, and talking about how he wanted to kill somebody.
Create a little backstory.
Yeah, create some sort of backstory that makes it believable that if a gun ends up in this guy's hand, that all hell is going to break loose.
Well, you know what it's like? It's like The Eyes of Laura Mars.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, okay, Faye Dunaway and Tommy Lee Jones are, he's like a cop or something. They have this affair, and then, she's seeing this killer through her eyes, or the killer's eyes in her psychically or something. Mm-hmm. And then, like 10 minutes before the movie ends, Tommy Lee Jones admits that he's the killer. And I'm like, what? What? I'm like, what?
Got all the way through that movie, so.
He's like, I'm the guy you're looking for, and he shoots her this evil look on his face. You believe that he's the killer, but you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why are you making him the killer? So that she has to pick up a gun and kill him. Yeah. So it's like a werewolf story. You can only be killed by the one you love. So for me, it's a weak one. It's the same for you, right?
Yeah, it is. I still enjoy it though. I always have a soft spot for it. But yeah, no, it is a weaker.
There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of politics and feminism that's wrapped up in the story. Too much compared to, like, say, The Enforcer.
Didn't bother me that much. Didn't really bother me that much. I thought it was an interesting depiction of what it might be like for her, personally, and with her parents upset about it. It's that stuff was interesting. It was sort of dealt with in a real world kind of way. It wasn't like preachy or anything, so that didn't really bother me. But
right. And I would say also I enjoy Kathryn Bigelow's handheld work. She does really good handheld camera work.
She does. The opening scene is actually really well done.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, not much lives up to it. Now, as for Kathryn Bigelow, I really didn't care for Strange Days. I think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's just terrible for me. I don't
Strange Days at the time, and I haven't watched it in years.
I was mortified at it.
Why?
There was so much in there because there was like this. Okay, it's so. I mean, like, we talk about eye for an eye, or something like that. That's exploitation that knows it's exploitation and is trying to sell your story. This was based on like a James Cameron script that he wrote like 10, 20 years before.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave it to her, and she kind of turned it into, again, it's part of that Hollywood liberal package. This is the kind of stuff that you don't really like.
Yeah.
Where they think artists and creative types matter when they don't. Yeah. I mean, like, the whole thing is about the death of a rap artist, and the thing about it is nobody gave a shit when Biggie and Tupac were killed. They really did.
That is
true. And they talk about
they pretend
this rap artist.
This is the biggest thing that ever happened. Like, really?
Yeah, it's like, and you're like, what's the big thing? What's the big thing? And then finally you find the death of a rap star. Yeah. That's a big thing.
Really?
I mean, and then also there was like this sustained handheld first-person rape and murder scene, which I thought was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, that was there. You are correct.
And I felt like there should have been just so much more happening there. It could have been really fantastic. I think Ray Fiennes' character in the movie is interesting. It's all about this.
That was what I liked,
stuff.
and I actually kind of like the romance between him, the odd romance between him and Angela Bassett. Like I thought that was cool. Like, 'cause she was,
that's fine.
She was the one who protected him. I like that. It's interesting. I think now it would be tired, but back then it was a little bit more fresh. Like, if they put that in a movie now and the chick was protecting the dude, it would just be like more of what we see all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And like, but back then it was more interesting, and it was played really well. I thought I liked Angela
Yes,
Bassett.
I'll give you that. What was this? 1999. The movie came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing back then, I guess, it felt more. Goodness, what's the word?
Fresh.
It felt not fresh. It felt less preachy.
Yeah, it wasn't
in that regard, just in that regard, not the rap artist stuff. That stuff was preachy.
It was. Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's a black rap artist, and if he gets killed, everybody has a shit fit. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. Did anyone care when Pasolini was killed? Pier Pasolini.
I don't even know who that is.
He's an Italian filmmaker. He was murdered back in the 70s. He was like an avant-garde, subversive filmmaker and a homosexual. And he was killed. He was murdered.
Right.
And
what about Theo Van Gogh? Theo Van Gogh
as well. Yeah, he was a subversive, stabbed and shot in the streets in, where was it, Denmark or someplace like that.
You are now listening to Extreme Cinema with Andrew Legank and David Lawler.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right, so let's move on to The Hitcher. Oh my God, Andrew. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, when I saw it. Okay, first off, I missed the TriStar horse, don't you?
I do. The TriStar
don't
horse
you miss
was great. I know.
When we put in Monster Squad today, the TriStar logo pops up. Rican goes, "Oh look, it's a horsey."
I love it.
Okay. So this takes me back, and I also remember that HBO produced the movie and that it was released by HBO on home video, Thorn EMI HBO video. Remember it with the nice clamshell?
I do. I remember. Yeah. Yep. The HBO. Yeah. The Thorn EMI.
Yeah. And we have another bit where we have a driver falling asleep at the wheel, like in Cohen and Tate. And I think he picks up Rutger Hauer just to keep himself from falling asleep. We got C. Thomas Howell.
Mm-hmm.
And I could make a really terrible joke about Eric Red at this point, but I won't. Remember when C. Thomas Howell was a teen heartthrob?
Yeah.
He was all over magazines in the early 80s because of like The Outsiders and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then came Soul Man, unfortunately. That kind of killed his career. So what I do know about The Hitcher of recent was that it was remade, and Sean Bean played the title role. Now, I love Sean Bean, but he's no Rutger Hauer.
No.
Rutger Hauer is absolutely menacing. He is just about perfect casting in this movie. He's creepy. He's inappropriate. The only problem is that he and Sean Bean are just too good looking to be serial killers, don't you think?
Yeah. Although
9 minutes in, he's threatening C. Thomas Howell.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's just,
and you believe him.
You do.
You totally believe. And C. Thomas, okay, this is, you know how we talk about beta males.
Yeah.
C. Thomas is very much a beta male, and he's up against an alpha male.
Yeah.
Who happens to be psychotic. And it's funny, too, because they get pulled, they have to stop because there's road work up ahead, and one of the road workers calls them sweethearts.
Right, yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
So getting into it, Hauer is like eating him alive verbally. And he, what does he do? He picks up, he has a knife or something?
Yeah, he has a switchblade.
He has a switchblade, and he tells him he wants C. Thomas Howell to say, "I want to die."
I'm a stupid moron with an ugly face and a big butt, and my butt smells, and I like to kiss my own butt.
And Howell resists, and he pushes Hauer out of the car.
Right.
And that was his mistake. He shouldn't have done that.
Well, what was he supposed to do? Say, "I want to die," so that he could kill him?
But he caused so much heartache later on. That's the first domino that falls, is him doing.
What he should have done is go back and run him over with the car. That would have saved a lot of the heartache and misery.
It would have been, but it was dark and rainy, right?
It was, and I'm sure anybody would have just gotten the fuck out of there. So following that, Rutger Hauer proceeds to terrorize our poor little C. And
and it's a lot of stuff that's very shocking too. It's a lot of this reminds me a lot thematically of Cohen and Tate because the car is like literally it's a vehicle that moves the story along.
Right.
And C. Thomas is a lot like the little boy. from Cohen
You
and
think
Tate.
his friends call him C?
C. I don't know what's his first name. Charles? Carl?
No, they probably call him Tom, but like or Thomas, but yeah, like I don't know.
Excuse me, Chuck.
Hey,
and he's like, "Shut up! My name is Tom."
Excuse me, C.
C. Yo, C. Come over here, C.
Oh,
Tom
C.
Hal.
It's nice to meet you.
If you or I were directing him, we would just go, "Yo, Hal, faggot, come over
Hal,
here."
get over here.
So Mark Isham does the score for this one, and it's a really good score. I think it's a little more appropriate.
Yeah,
for it than Cohen and Tate.
It fits more in the size and scope of the movie than that.
Yeah, Cohen and Tate feels like a horror film the way the music goes. It's like a horror film, but this truly is a horror film.
Yeah,
it's suspense. It has the same kind of suspense beats as Cohen and Tate, but Cohen and Tate is more. Cohen and Tate is more like a suspenseful road movie type thing.
Yeah, yeah. And this is like sheer out horror.
This is straight out horror. So the next day, C. Thomas notices that Rutger Hauer's hitchhiking with a family, a mom and dad and their daughter, and C. Thomas is trying to get them to get rid of Rutger Hauer. Mm-hmm. And again, we have more suspense. He's like, "You've got a crazy guy in your car," and they're not like listening to him at all. He's like singing along with them or something, playing with toys in the back of the station wagon.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my wife about suspense, about the idea of suspense, that it seems to be, something bad is going to happen, you just don't know when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's really what the definition of suspense is, right?
Not always, because you can create suspense by you think that something bad's going to happen, but may not necessarily. So, or you can also create suspense because you don't know what's going to happen.
What if it's that you know more than the characters know?
That's one way of creating suspense, but I wouldn't say that it's the only way.
Like, I feel like Cohen and Tate is pure suspense. Blue Steel is pure suspense because we know that Ron Silver's the killer.
All right.
You know that something bad is going to happen to his family, and as it turns out, Rutger Hauer kills the family. It's strongly implied anyway. There's blood all over the station wagon.
Yeah.
So next, he's menacing C. Thomas, ramming him from behind in a pickup truck, and this is incredibly riveting, and it has that degree of exploitation.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on in the movie that I felt like we should really have reserved just an entire block just to talk about this movie. But
yeah, it's true.
Do you remember a movie from 1981? It was called Road Games.
With Stacy Keach. Yeah.
Stacy Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. Yes. Directed by Richard Fleischer, I want to say.
Yeah, you're right.
Who also did Psycho 2. Very similar to that, very Hitchcockian in that way. And also, The Hitcher is also just crazy Hitchcockian in a lot of its referencing. Mm-hmm. And also Duel, the Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
So, but in Road Games, you got a truck driver traveling across Australia who, along with the help of a hitchhiker, seeks to track down a serial killer who's butchering women and dumping their dismembered bodies along desolate highways. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to Hitcher. But we go to Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's looking actually very cute in this movie.
She is.
Because she got a great ass, and you got your head all the way up it.
About to start her shift at some roadside diner when C. Thomas stumbles in and calls the cops, and she makes him a burger and fries. She's like the perfect woman, I think.
Is it me? Yeah. Does that burger and fries look so fucking good? It just makes me want. Every time I watch that scene, it makes me want a burger and fries that looks so good.
Except for the severed finger at the end of the shot.
Oh, it still looks so good. I don't know.
Yeah, roadside diner burger and fries looks pretty good, but she has a sense of humor, which is so unlike her in real life.
Yeah, sure.
She was in another horror movie I really liked called Sister Sister with Eric Stoltz. It was like this Southern Gothic gore movie. Very good movie.
I never saw that.
I have it somewhere. I have a widescreen. Actually, it's beautifully shot. This is beautifully shot as well. So Rutger Hauer frames him, and he gets arrested, and he gets ramrodded through the system and thrown in jail. But the thing is, this is a guy who's not about covering his own ass. He's about making C. Thomas Howell's life a living hell.
Yeah.
So he kills the officers at the prison and opens the jail for C. Thomas. And again, this is just not good. I had the perverse thought in the back of my head, okay, I hate to do this to you because I know what you're going to think, but I had this idea in my head that this was like Fight Club or something. and C. Thomas is revealed to be the killer. Because these psychological games are just crazy.
Yeah.
But But I do, we go through episode after episode, and in this movie, and so far this is my favorite of the three. What did you think of The Hitcher?
I just watched it again, preparing for this podcast, and I have to say, my memory of it. I mean, this is something that was on HBO constantly when I was a kid.
Right.
It was all the time. It was like it was always in your face, and it got to the point where you didn't want to watch it anymore because it was always freaking on. And
but then clear out your head a couple of years later, and then you watch it.
Yeah,
right?
and I have to say, my memory of it was always that it really had a great first act, and it fell apart after that. And I have to say that's not the case.
So it changed for you. The narrative got stronger.
It did.
Perhaps with age, with the wisdom.
I still, I don't agree with Roger Ebert. But it's a tough movie.
That is really something that shocked the hell out of me was the review for this movie.
Yeah. For exactly this.
And again, you know how you said before when we were watching when we spoke about Eye for an Eye.
Yeah.
And you said that he gave something thematically similar, maybe a better review.
Yeah.
Because it felt like he was running out of stars.
Yeah.
to describe. And there was a similar movie to this, I guess, around that time.
I forget what.
But Ebert didn't like this movie. That's just.
He gave it 0 stars. I mean, it's more like that's
not a review. I mean, he might have just spit on a piece of paper and sent that to the Chicago
He reserves
Tribune.
that for movies that he decides to stand on a soapbox and call morally reprehensible for whatever reason. And
how could you hate? I mean, you can't even on any level. We're talking about performance.
Yeah,
script.
He put it on the same level.
Set decoration.
He put it
or
with "I Spit on Your Grave," the original.
Okay.
In terms of pure, just absolutely no redeeming value whatsoever. That is what he felt. And I don't agree with that at all.
That's a mind blower.
I do think it's a tough movie.
Okay, yeah,
it's a little simple-minded in the motivations of John Ryder.
I think I don't know about that. I think that what we're seeing here is purely visceral.
Yeah.
And it's meant for you to interpret. It's not meant to be thrown. And this, again, is another trademark of Eric Red's writing, is that he is more invested in just showing you stuff and having you react,
I was reading something, and I think I when I had better notes, because we spent so long since nobody else knows that. But I was doing some studying up on this, and I recall reading something about Rutger Hauer sitting down with Harmon, the director, and the two of them just watching Eric Red, this kid, and they're like, does he even know what he's writing? Does he have any idea what this is that he's doing? Because this is some serious shit that he's writing here. Does he even understand what he's writing?
Yeah. It's very much, it's something that you would wonder about the writer, what he's trying to do. He had, from what I understand, he had done a short film, right?
I don't recall about that.
He had done a short film, written a script very similar along these lines, and then he just took it and expanded it, and the script was enormous. It was huge.
Mm-hmm.
It was his first foray, I guess, into script writing, so he overcompensated in a way. But this watching, I was completely riveted. I was just going to be all right, I'll watch that. I'll watch The Hitcher. I'll turn it on. I don't remember seeing it when I was younger. Maybe
what they were saying was they weren't criticizing him. They were saying that what he was writing was so subversive, so powerful, and so socially wrong. They were wondering if he knew how vile some of the things he was coming up with were. That's what they were discussing. Not that he didn't know what he was doing or he was an idiot or anything like that.
I can't even
imagine.
imagine.
It might have come out like that. I just wanted to correct the record so that that's not what they were saying.
It's I don't know. For me, morally reprehensible or what's another word? Irresponsible.
Right.
Words like that have no place in art. Art is whatever you make out of it. If you find beauty in a bunch of dead butterflies on a wall or something, that's your thing. Other people might find it gross.
Right.
And that's what we bring to it. We bring ourselves, man. Especially with these movies, we're bringing ourselves to it.
Right.
We're bringing our own personal baggage, you know. Some people really dig incredibly gory, horrible movies. Like, you know, we talk about Henry. I mean, for crying out loud, you know, the movie is shown in midnight movie theaters.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the? You were like, what the fuck kind of people would do that?
Yeah.
You know,
I want a list of those people. Okay.
Yeah.
I still do. But
yeah, and that to me, that's not a movie I can. This is a movie I ate up with a spoon. I mean, it's like fucking chocolate pudding.
that's what
watching.
I thought. I like it. You know, I don't find.
That's why I said I was going into it not expecting anything. I was kind of expecting, okay, all right, it'll probably be suspenseful, a little action, maybe a little gory, maybe a little scary. It's like it's so much more than that. It's like a piece of fucking art watching this movie. It's the kind of movie I had to wake up my wife. My wife was sleeping. I finished watching the movie. I come in, and I put Regan in her bed because she fell asleep on our bed. So I put her in bed. I had to wake her up. I said, "Did you ever see The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer?" She says, "I vaguely remember that. Rutger Hauer, because she likes Rutger Hauer. She's a fan of his." And I said, "This is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life." And I was completely fucking serious about it. I still am. This is seriously one of the greatest movies ever made that I've ever seen.
Wow.
It like automatically goes into my top 10. Forget it. It's like right up there. Shoot it up there on the list. It's better than most movies.
There on the Cadillac board.
Fuck you. Yeah, that's my message for you. Fuck you and kiss my ass.
Exactly. I was completely blown away by this fucking movie. I was completely blown away into the ending, which is kind of it's propulsive and it's terrible. Because, and I'm going to spoil it, I guess. He basically kills Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah, he draws and quarters her between.
Draws and quarters her, tying her to the back of a truck with chains and ropes.
Yeah.
And gives Thomas Howell like a choice, because if he shoots him, you know, he's going to hit the accelerator. Either way, she's dead or something. He's got to figure out what to do. And it just ends the way you think it's going to end, which is kind of horrible. And C. Thomas is absolutely traumatized by it. And he knows. It's so weird because they have him in custody, and he knows that he's going to somehow wiggle his way out of this. He knows that Rutger Hauer's going to get out of this situation.
Right.
And so he basically, you know, takes a cop's gun from him, dumps him on the road, and he says, you know, the cop is like, Jeffrey DeMunn is playing the cop.
Yeah.
And he says, just let the law handle this. And he's like, you know,
yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill this motherfucker. And he finally, I mean, it takes him forever, but he does. You know, he just keeps coming back. Rutger Hauer's like some kind of a monster. He's a monster who just keeps coming back.
Right. Right.
And then it just sort of ends with him on the side of the road. And that, to me, it was such a powerful, powerful movie. I don't know why it hit me on this level.
I wish that they had really, the only thing I would really change about it is I like the actual ending. I'd like to see it tie up a little bit better. Not tie up, but just I thought that the tone of the way that the credits just roll after he blows him away, like they could have done something. They could have even had, you know, had the cops show up and arrest you know, C. Thomas Howell and tell him he's going away or blah, 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 you know, something like that. I would have liked to have seen something a little bit more. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty...
Well, he did kind of save the day. I mean, the cops... He made the cops look like idiots.
Yeah, he did. You know, or maybe Jeffrey
they
DeMunn
just didn't know what they were
says,
dealing
you know,
with.
look, you got him. All right, you know, let's go. You know,
this is... well, I tell you, this is a movie that absolutely inspires me. It's a movie that I would love to write. If I only had the patience and the nerve to do something like that, I would absolutely do something like that.
Yeah. Well,
it's inspiring. It's truly inspiring.
That's great. I would say
seriously,
I think Cohen and Tate is more inspiring in that regard for me than this is, but especially
maybe it is for you because you have like you're very like about economy and telling a story in a streamlined way with very few like deviations or something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the movie's low budget kind of balls to the wall, fuck you, we're making a movie attitude is what inspired you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
In the diner, the great scene in the diner where C. Thomas confronts him and he asks, "Why are you doing this to me?" And Rutger Hauer just looks at him and says, "You're a smart kid. You figure it out."
Yeah.
I mean, this is genius.
How do you like Shitsville?
Don't you move. You stay seated right where you are. Or I'll blow your brains through your ass.
The gun is empty.
Yeah? Yeah?
You never checked it, did you?
So help me, I'll blow you in half.
All right. Squeeze the trigger.
I will.
Please.
Oh, I will.
Because you can sure as shit bet I'm gonna squeeze mine.
Why are you doing this to me?
You're a smart kid. You'll figure it out.
And I also want to mention that Rutger Hauer made another movie for HBO a couple years later, which was very similar to The Hitcher. It was called Blindside.
Oh, yeah.
With Rebecca De Mornay and Ron Silver.
Right.
And what this one was about, this one was a little more Hitchcockian than The Hitcher in terms of like the motivation and the narrative, because they're like vacationing. Rebecca De Mornay and Ron Silver are vacationing in Mexico or something like that, and they're on their way home. They accidentally run into and kill a Mexican police officer.
Mm-hmm.
They make no report of the accident. They don't say anything because they're scared to death of maybe winding up in a Mexican jail or something like that. So they just return to the United States, and then they have their the damage to their car repaired, and they appear to have gotten away with the killing. But then Rutger Hauer shows up, and he says he knows what they did, and he starts to blackmail them and fuck with them and shit like that.
Right.
So it's very similar in that way.
Interesting.
It's also very similar.
I recall
Yeah,
the movie, but I never saw it, I don't think.
There's also another movie, I don't know if you've seen it, a French horror movie called High Tension, also known as Switchblade Romance, very similar to this as well.
Really? That one I don't know at all.
The Hitcher was Bob Harmon's second feature film as director. He would later make the Jesse Stone movies with Tom Selleck for television.
Right.
So he's still working, so good for him.
He didn't get kicked out of Hollywood for making The Hitcher. God bless him.
No.
What do we got? Bill Cruikshank's transplant was a success.
Mr. Cruikshank, how does it feel to have someone else's arm?
Then the donor came to take it back.
Take the kids and go to your mother's. Don't pack, just go now!
Body parts. It'll scare you to pieces. Rated R.
So when I was in high school, which is when Body Parts came out, I went to their. I had a friend. He wasn't very bright. He wasn't a very bright guy, but he was a friend. We used to hang out.
Okay.
And we went to see Body Parts together. All right.
Oh, really?
And so we're coming out of the movie, and I'm like, wow, I thought that was pretty cool. What do you think? He's like, He's like, I don't like it. I didn't like it. I was like, why? What's the matter with you? He's like, it had no middle. I'm like, this is a guy who did not know anything about story structure. I mean, I was a guy, that studied story structure and act, first act, second act, transitions, all this kind of shit. And this guy knew nothing about it. And he's like, it's got no middle. I'm like, and when I was watching it again this time, I have to say that kept going through my head. The guy is absolutely right. It has no middle.
Yeah, so you gave it a thought, and it turned just, I guess, on his instinctive movie watching level.
Yeah.
He's not an architect of drama. He's not a screenwriter
movie
himself.
Watching level,
Yeah, and he's like, it has no. That's how it felt to him because it was instinctive. Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right because I feel like we have our beginning, we have our setup.
It doesn't get fleshed out, and then all of a sudden there's an ending battle.
It's a good setup.
It is.
And then
it is.
and then I feel like I feel like maybe a reel is missing, and we're already plunging into an incredible. There's some interesting stuff
in the car next to him, and you're like, oh shit.
There's I felt like I turned around and I missed something.
Yeah,
right?
It's true.
It didn't. You get a definite beginning, middle, and an end with the Hitcher and Cohen and Tate. Unfortunately, you don't get that too much with Blue Steel, though. Blue Steel feels kind of mishmashed.
Blue Steel
a little bit.
has structural problems too. Yeah.
Yeah. But you might be right. But the thing, there's some really great ideas at play in Body Parts.
There are, and I really would have liked to have seen them fleshed out more. And that's my issue with it. I think it's a fun movie. It's still good. I'm not saying it's bad. I still enjoyed it.
It has a great schlocky appeal to it. That's kind of fun.
I'd like to get on my soapbox here for a minute because I watched some deleted footage from this movie, and I just want to stand up there. I just want to speak out against director's cuts and added footage that's been cut out. Like, we cut this out to get an R rating. Generally, no, you didn't. You cut it out because it sucks. And and when you put it back in, it ruins the movie. Most of the time, you cut it out for a reason. And in this particular case,
a lot,
they cut out.
You're right.
First of all, they cut out this really hokey looking thing with his hand on the highway after the accident. And the reason, they're saying that people are saying it was cut to get an R rating. It was cut because it looks silly.
Okay, you're right.
That's my opinion. I thought it looked silly. And then we moved to it's cut where they changed the surgery. And there was a bunch of extra footage of the surgery. And I'll tell you exactly why that needed to go right there, because it reminded you 100% of RoboCop. He wakes up with the screen and the point of view and everything, just like fucking RoboCop. And it's like, well, did they make a robot out of this guy or what? And no, they did not make a robot. All they did was give him a hand transplant. So this is not the way we want to go with this. So we cut this. So we don't put these things back in because they don't work. See,
okay. Well, since you're still on your soapbox,
I can jump off. I'm just
no, stay on it. Stay on it. In the lecture discussion, this is the question and answer period for the students. Now, does your opinion hold for most director's cuts with the added footage?
Most of them, yes. I keep finding myself I find myself not wanting them to watch them. I want to watch the original movie. I don't want to. There are very few cases, say maybe The Abyss. It was a much better movie, the director's cut, than the regular. But it's a very different movie. Like these things where they add in a couple minutes of footage here, like the director's cut of Lethal Weapon. Who the fuck wants that? Give me Lethal Weapon the way it was. It was fine the way it was. Don't change it.
Well, you can get off your soapbox now, but I did. It's very interesting. It's very interesting how we think. Sometimes I think we should be picking out China patterns. Because I was thinking about the movie Stripes, comedy. Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Army, all that. Right. Ivan Reitman directed it. Now, a director's cut of Stripes came out.
Really?
And it has, the director's cut ruins the movie. It seriously ruins the movie. It's an extra 20 minutes of footage in the middle of the movie.
Why?
That has a lot to do with Bill Murray's character trying to desert the Army, and then all the various hijinks that they conduct while they're in the Army, like going different places, being on different missions, and then there's a whole excursion to Europe that's part of the final act. And it's meant to flesh out the character. I know that's what they're thinking. Like, oh, this is great. You love this movie. You'll love it even more with extra scenes.
No.
It ruins the movie. Yeah. It completely ruins the tone, the rhythm.
Right.
Comedy is supposed to be quick. Don't add character moments.
Right.
Either it works or it doesn't. That's the thing about comedy. It's very subjective.
Right.
But for me, it's about get the joke out there as quickly as possible. Get us in and get us out laughing.
Right, and
make us want more. Don't give us more, but make us want more.
The problem, one of the biggest problems with the director's cut is when you're first cutting the movie, you're probably under time constraints. You're making the best product that you can to get it out. And I think that you should trust your initial vision there, rather than coming back and rethinking it later when you
Maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe I should throw in an extra scene.
Yeah, let me put this extra scene back in. Like, no, don't. You cut that for a reason. Like, it wasn't necessary.
Absolutely.
That's 90% of the time, not all the time, but 90%.
There are some. You know what? Give us options if you want.
Yeah, put it on the end of the laser disc. That's fine. Or
or maybe like with Blu-rays, what they
on the end of the 8-track tape.
Yeah. Flip it over when it starts to fade out.
Side 2, let's rock.
But if you want to, you can give us an option.
Yeah.
You can say, okay, if you want to see the extended version of the scene, hit this button.
Yeah, it could be like a choose your own adventure.
All right. So Body Parts opens with the credit sequence. It's pretty awesome. It's very schlocky because it's like drawings of musculature, arms and legs.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Bronwyn's drawings because as an artist,
a really good score from Loïc Dieker. I can't pronounce
his
name.
Yeah.
It was a Dutch guy who worked with Paul Verhoeven on Fourth Man and a number of other things.
That's right. Yeah. So my wife is always drawing pictures of arms and hands and feet. So I was like to Bronwyn do this opening credit.
Wow.
So Frank Mancuso Jr. ran Paramount for a time, and he supervised several of Paramount's franchises, including the Friday the 13th movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he pushed this project through, basically. I think Eric Red was he had already shown some interest in it and was working on it because it was based on a book, I think, a French book.
It was, and apparently a lot of other people had tried to adapt this book and were unsuccessful in getting to do it. I'm kind of curious, because I read Eric read when they went through the process of getting the rights to the book that it had been at several studios with a bunch of writers that had worked on it for a long time, and that they had all had a lot of trouble fleshing it out. And that's interesting. I'd love to read and find out who that is and find out read some of those drafts. That'd be interesting.
So
anyway, moving on.
So we have Jeff Fahey plays a criminal psychologist and a teacher. Can we stop for a moment to show Jeff Fahey a little love?
Yeah,
he is one of my favorite actors. Ever since I think Psycho 3, he's always interesting,
mm-hmm.
and he has these piercing, ice cold blue eyes, and he always seems to be on the verge of a complete breakdown, which is why he always seemed to be cast as like a heavy. He's always like appearing in very cheap. Most recently, he was like this. He was the airline pilot in Lost from seasons 4 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
And really, just great to watch. I always found him so
I've always
interesting
loved
to watch.
Jeff Fahey from back in the '80s. I've always found him to be terrific. He's always been one of my favorite actors. He never gets enough recognition, if you ask me. I've always been a fan. Always been a fan.
And then we have Kim Delaney plays his wife,
mm-hmm.
and she looks a lot like a young brunette Jessica Lange with these Madonna true blue eyebrows in this movie. She's very attractive. Very attractive in the movie. So Eric Red gets a decent budget for this movie, $10 million. So Body Parts was probably Red's only shot at a major motion picture as a director.
Mm-hmm.
So Fahey gets into spectacular car accident, which catapults him through his windshield.
It's beautiful. That's beautifully done, I have to say.
Yeah, great combination of effects and sound. Sound is crucial.
Yeah,
you're breaking glass, bodies, that kind of stuff, and it's all put together very well, very well.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the groundwork for the next few months of classes.
What I found fascinating was that the action of the car crash was executed in real time.
Mm-hmm.
That is to say, it wasn't constant repeating. You know how in action movies, whenever there's explosions, they always want to show you every fucking angle the explosion was in, every fucking angle that the car gets rear-ended or something. Mm-hmm. That really bugs me. But the shots are well edited. The accident is perfectly choreographed. It looks real, but it almost looks all otherworldly, as if the audience is right there with him.
Hmm. Yeah.
And Fahey loses his entire right arm and he gets a transplant. And even like modern medicine by itself, never mind the mad scientist angle of this movie, mm-hmm. It seems like a freaking horror movie.
Yeah.
I love when they bring him in, the surgeon gets sprayed with blood when she starts slicing into the body that they're going to use to transplant to Fahey. And Red is like fascinated with the details of the transplant, not only the surgery, but the recuperation and the rehabilitation.
Mr. Cruikshank, how does it feel to have someone else's arm?
Come on. How does your family feel about the operation?
Mr. Cruikshank, do you think the operation will affect your sex life?
Mr. Cruikshank, could you show it your arm so we can get a shot?
Hold it up for the cameras, please.
Let's have a look at it. I really don't think you people should be talking to me. You should be pointing the cameras at Dr. Webb. She's going to be a Nobel Prize winner.
Do we have a comment, please?
Dr. Webb.
Question, please.
We hope that in a few years' time, the procedure which Bill Cruikshank underwent will become commonplace. Other than to pay tribute to the courage of Bill Cruikshank, there's nothing more to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Webb.
Got that?
So Body Parts is a lot more thoughtful than most horror films from that time, even though it's kind of schlocky, of course. Now, I remember seeing the trailer for the movie. Interesting trivia here. Paramount pulled the ads for Body Parts in Milwaukee because cops started finding dismembered bodies from Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment.
Oh, God.
Bad press. Bad press.
Really.
That's one of the reasons I think why the movie kind of failed in that way. But I took my girlfriend at the time to see Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear.
Right.
And there was also a trailer for Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, because these were Paramount movies, so Paramount was running its trailers.
Right.
And they showed a part of the accident scene, and my girlfriend ducked. She actually got out of the way of the movie screen. So she was mortified, and that was funny, and I laughed at her. She broke up with me shortly after that. But for some reason, of course, we're getting into this urban legend thing. He's got this arm, and there's certain things that he can do now that he never really thought about doing before. He tends to get more violent. He cuts himself shaving. He flips out on one of his kids. Is the arm working its way into his brain? That's my question there.
Right. Yeah.
Ow! Oh! Ow! Damn it! Ow!
Billy!
What's going on? Billy, what's the matter? What is wrong with you? Are you crazy? Huh?
Billy,
He's a child. You don't hit a child. Don't you ever put your hands on him.
One commonality among all the films we watched is that Eric Red he draws you in almost effortlessly. Psychology is always at play, and it's a deliberate psychology. It's not anything you have to dig deep to get to. It's always there.
Right.
And that's what makes not only that film, but the man himself truly disturbing. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So Fahey sort of catches the clue before we do, which is weird, right?
Yeah.
He runs a fingerprint from his transplanted arm to get a record of it. He discovers, surprise, surprise, the arm belonged to a death row criminal.
Great.
Charles
Isn't
Fletcher.
that scene is done brilliantly too? Just the way he looks that up and the way that they shoot that with the way they cut it together. It's really good. Really good.
I love that it was before Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
He couldn't Google it.
No.
Charles Fletcher.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then get a print up and go to the doctor. What the fuck is this? But what's unusual is that it's a ghost story.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a ghost story. It's the ghost of a killer haunting a decent man.
Right. And that's,
logically,
and
Fahey's fears are unfounded.
I think is where things got out of hand. Like,
do you think this is where you lose the beat, where your friend said it had no middle?
Yeah. Well, and it's because,
what is the middle?
Well,
in a movie like this.
Well, you would flesh it out more. You would.
We kind of get car accident.
Our bad guy
kind
of shows up like for the third act. And like we haven't even worked our way up to what that means.
There is, yeah. You're right. That's it. It's the bad guy.
Yeah, we don't meet him early. He just shows up, starts killing everyone, starts killing Brad Dourif, who by the way is fucking awesome in this. Just got to give him a shout out as well. And
wait, which guy?
Brad Dourif.
Oh, Brad. Yeah. He is. Yeah, he's wonderful
is it
in it.
Dourif or Dorif? I don't know.
I always say Dorif. You say Dourif because I guess because he's French. He has a French last name.
I don't fucking.
Brad Dourif.
Dourif. I don't know. Let's ask him
great.
Okay. Look him up on Facebook and ask him out.
We'll find him. Maybe we can get him because I have a feeling he's going to pop up a lot on this show.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's a great creepy character actor, and he plays another transplant recipient.
Yes.
He got the other arm.
Yeah.
In the deal by the same doctor, so he plays an artist, and this is a great scene.
Yeah.
More backstory, I guess, exposition or whatever. It's very interesting to me. Dorff is thriving off of his artistic talent using the other arm. He shows Jeff Fahey some of the art he did before he got the transplant, and then his art became much more interesting and financially successful.
Yeah.
He mentions.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to
With
give it
the
up,
work.
and he's like, why are you bitching about this? This problem, who cares? This
is
killer
a miracle.
fucking
This is
making
a
me rich.
blessing.
Yeah.
Charlie Fletcher, the killer. Killed 20 people. With his bare hands, with that hand that you paint with the arm that Webb sewed under your shoulder. That killed people.
Yeah? What did he do with your arm?
Don't you wonder where these images come from? If maybe they come from him?
Oh, look, pal, I don't know what you do, but you sure the hell ain't no art critic. Where do my images come from? If you or anybody have a sound theory on that one, I recommend you bottle it and sell it at auction. They just come to me, man. I snatch them out of the air. Thank God. I want to show you something. See this? The last 25 years, I was a hack. I can say that now. Dumb Cape Cod landscapes. Wall fillers for banks, hotel rooms. That's the best I could do. Nobody had 2 seconds of their precious fucking time for my serious work. I get this arm, and hey, I make $250,000 in the first 3 weeks. My dealer's phone never stops ringing. The New York fucking Times is talking about my searing original talent.
Well, it's turning me into a psycho, and I beat up my kid after we wrestled.
Yeah.
It's like, but look at what he was doing before. He was doing like these stupid still lives and stuff you would find in a hotel lobby, and now he's doing like this dark ass freaking goth
like,
shit.
People want it, and it's like fucking like cool, Yeah.
It belongs on the cover of a death metal album,
But I think that the bad guy is really the weak point because, like, I tell you the truth, I don't even remember what his deal was. It was silly. He's trying to come around and get his arms back and his legs back. Like what?
Yeah, it's kind of a shady motivation there, and therein lies your friend's problem with the middle. I guess is that we don't get enough to know about this because
we might have believed that we might have been able to buy that if they had given us more backstory in the second act. In the middle.
Yeah. Maybe Eric Red was more fascinated with Jeff Fahey.
Yeah.
Than he was with anything else. And I don't know.
If that's the case, then they should have just gone for the supernatural angle and not like that he's haunted, then have some actual physical manifestation of this guy whose arms were taken.
Well, there's a very disturbing scene where he and his kid were wrestling, and then he just smacks this kid violently across his face, right?
Right.
This is why Fahey's a brilliant actor, because he doesn't make it look like he's being possessed to smack the child. He just does it like it's natural. That's why it's disturbing to me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what if the donor was a skinny man with bony arms? What if he was a copious masturbator? Then Fahey would just be sitting at his desk, Instead, he has to be like an incredibly strong, muscular, big, psychopathic serial killer.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's another transplant recipient who's like, I guess, an athlete or something, and he's doing very well athletically.
Yeah.
And in view of Eric Red's misadventures later in life, it was extremely unsettling to me to see another transplant recipient in a car, stepping on the gas and unable to control his vehicle.
Right.
So later, Jeff Fahey tries to strangle his wife, and he's freaking everybody out now. He moves out of his home. He demands that the doctor, played by Lindsay Duncan, lop off the arm. He'll even live with a hook, he says. He says, give me a hook. I'll be happy with a hook. She's like, no. It's about me.
You can't have a hook.
I'm not giving you a hook.
Oh, no.
So it's basically, she's a mad scientist, and this is about her gratification.
Right.
So he hooks up, pun intended, with the other recipients, and they have a nice confab in a bar, but the other guys still don't believe him when he says his operation wasn't a complete success.
A bar fight.
He beats the shit out of a bunch of guys single-handedly.
Yeah.
Transplant recipients are being exterminated, and eventually Jeff confronts the killer, who doesn't seem to know what he's doing. And again, that's part of that motivation. He just doesn't know. He's just kind of thrown in there. And the film reminds me a little bit of David Cronenberg's The Fly in a way, because we have a sympathetic lead, and the tragedy of knowing his condition may be irreversible. And it's very much an exploitation movie, because if it was popular, it would prey upon people's fears with regard to receiving transplants.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Hitcher, this is a popcorn movie. It's always interesting. I was never bored by it.
No.
It does tend to get a little overwhelming. And in the end, in slow motion, Jeff Fahey destroys all of the remaining body parts hanging on display. Apparently, they were going to have like a nice fire sale and just put body parts on everybody.
Yeah.
You're completely out of your fucking mind. And you're a threat to every living thing you touch.
The grafting on of limbs was only the beginning.
The beginning? Saving Charlie Fletcher's head so he can run around and kill people? It's quite an achievement, Doctor.
Science, like nature, destroys to build. I'm part of a process that's bigger than all of us. Now, we transplant heads with full brain chemistry and functions intact. Don't you see where this can lead?
Yeah. Straight to hell!
The most interesting facet of the story is that the killer is dead. You know, Charlie Fletcher doesn't exist.
Right.
He's just a bunch of severed body parts. And any final thoughts on body parts?
Well,
Spock.
I enjoyed it. I thought and I enjoyed watching it again. I enjoyed it the first time. I do think it's flawed. It's got some story structure flaws and I do find sort of a problem with the whole bad guy thing. I think they could have done a little bit better with that. But so it's a moody and well done movie, and I thought it was a strong directorial effort from Eric Red.
For one of the smaller horror movies made, it's better than a lot of other horror films, actually.
And it deserved its big release. I thought, I'm glad that I went to see it in the theater back in 1991, and
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
I wish that Eric Red had made more movies than he's made, and of course now I don't know. We haven't talked about his issues with the law, and
I guess we're going to talk about that now.
I guess we have to.
Yeah, we kind of have to, I guess. I invite you, Extreme Cinema listeners, to listen to the addendum that will follow this episode, which will be a separate file. For now, I'm Andrew LeGank. He's David Lawler. And we were reviewing Eric the Red's movies. Cohen and Tate, Blue Steel, The Hitcher, and Body Parts. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.
You have been listening to Extreme Cinema with Andrew LeGank and David Lawler.